Wozani nonke emhlahlweni. Sheshani.
Simini sibone sana ngezondaba zothando.
Ek het denk weggejaag. Ek het al sy kleding goed by die venster uitgegooi, net so Sharon Stone met haar boyfriend gemaak het in daai fliek Woman of Passion.
Why like 'n fliek daai?
Toe val ek op my bed en huil myself aan die slaap net soos Madonna in Wet Steamy Nights.
Lesi kar atamela kwa mme o tle mo go nna.
And we hope that you found that as nostalgic as we have, because these were the defining moments of all of our lives growing up here in South Africa, watching the SABC, because before there was anything else, there was SABC. Before there was Stumo, there was Velapi and so many others. And we went to Nigel, was Vetkoek Palace and so many other iconic properties. And by the way, you can still catch those on SABC Plus.
Yeah.
If you still haven't downloaded that app, you're missing out. I don't know what to say.
I have no idea. We can't anymore. We've told you to do it, and we'll continue to do it. You know, if you remember when you were young, I certainly remember this, was that you would be playing in the streets, and then suddenly you'd remember TV's about to start. So you'd all run into the living room, and you would sit staring at a test pattern. And then you'd wait for the test pattern, and then you would wait, and then suddenly, boom! The whole world would come alive with television. But that was TV. That was obviously in those days. But of course, way before that was radio. And the SABC has formed a part of everybody's life in some way. And that's what we're celebrating today, because it was on the 1st of August, 90 years ago, that the SABC was born. And today we reminisce, we take you back, we speak to the role players, the people that are involved in creating this, whether it be in front of the camera, behind the camera, or in the leadership roles. And that's where we bring ourselves in now, is to talk to the current leaders of the SABC and those that take up very, very key positions. Of course, first up, we've got our SABC Board Chairperson, Dr. Khathutshelo Ramukumba. Such a pleasure to have you. And of course, our SABC Group Chief Executive Officer, Nomsa Chabeli. Both of you, thank you. Thank you for being a part of this celebration, because it is a big celebration. We have to stop and remember and reminisce where we've come from in all this time. Chair, let me begin with you. I'm going to make it personal. When you think of the SABC, what's perhaps your fondest memory?
Well, I mean, interestingly, in one of the clips that we're playing there was the silver ruler. I remember, you know, back in the day, when, you know, even had to go to a neighbor's house, watch TV through the window,
Yes.
and then all those kinds of things. You have to walk back home and you are scared because of what you have seen. So the SABC has really been part of the fabric of nation building in this country as far back as 1936 to where we are today. It has consistently and religiously made sure that South Africans are informed, they're educated, and they're entertained. So it's a great day to celebrate this great milestone of 90 years.
And CEO, before we ask you further questions, your memory, you watching through someone else's window and feeling scared walking down the street, your earliest memory of SABC?
You know, for me, Leanne, SABC has given me the soundtrack to my life. And I think that's the most exciting part. I mean, we talk a lot about the TV side, but we think about the radio side. You know, I grew up listening to SABC radio. If I think about Ukhozi FM, the education programs, there was one where it used to start like, Amdogwe, Amabele, and to call us all to come and listen to the story. So that's the memory for me of growing up and sitting there with my family around a radio, you know, this transistor radio, and just listening to storytelling on SABC. And that's way before television came to South Africa.
And I think every South African can relate to that. And that very story in our different languages in South Africa, you know, because everyone had their story time. Everyone had their moment around the little radio. And I remember so fondly my grandmother, and I couldn't understand at first, you know, what is it? You know, all you hear is people talking. But every day, like clockwork, at a certain time, you know, she would get ready to listen to those radio stories. But here we are now, and you are at the helm of this mammoth organization, this massive brand that is brand SABC in its 90th birthday celebration year. How does that feel? You know, and do you feel any pressure, CEO, having to lead the organization at a time like this?
You know, this is one of the most iconic institutions in this country. It's a trusted public institution. It plays a role in each and every South African's life. So it's a massive task. For me, it's a personal mission to actually be leading this. And I always say to our employees that how blessed are we that we are put in front of the country at this point in time to look after the institution and ensure that we preserve it for future generations and ensure that it's sustainable for the future. So for me, that's the most critical part. And now more than ever, public broadcasting plays a very important role in society. We live in a society whereby we are battling with misinformation and disinformation, and we need credible news to make decisions about our lives. And that's the role that public service media plays. And SABC is unrivaled. And to your point, the most critical thing about what we do as SABC is bring you information that is in the language of your choice. That is such an important thing because that means that you have a greater understanding, a greater affinity with it, and that you are able to really engage with it at a very personal level. And that's what the role of this great institution plays. It's a mirror of society. It's a mirror of not just South Africans, but you know what SABC does? We develop content, we develop communication, information, education, not just for South Africans, but we actually talk about South Africa to the rest of the world. And that's really the scale of this institution. And to your point, I sit here and I think it's such a great trust that has been placed upon us as leaders to lead this very critical SABC.
So, Chair, I mean, to echo a lot of what you're saying, and when you think of 90 years old, if you take an individual or a car or an organization, when you hit 90, some of the wheels start to get a little bit rusty, and you need to obviously start looking and being a little bit more creative in what we do. Because, in an organization, and when we were talking about those days, obviously it was growing. There was investment. There was, this was new. It was something that had been evolving and creating a bigger monster. We're now here, and the monster's looking a lot different and harder to maintain. It really is. So talk to us about moving into this new generation. Obviously, we are proud of the SABC Plus app because that is massive. But where else are we going? Because it obviously is changing. That's just the world we live in.
Yeah, no, and I think you make a critical point, because I think the sketch you just pictured is something that we must reflect on at this type of a milestone of 90 years. When the SABC was established in 1936, and you take it through its life up until the 1976 when television came in, you come into the mid-80s when the industry was opened, the SABC was largely a monopoly. So it was able to survive, so it was able to generate enough revenues because it was a grudge buy by many ways. So it was able to sustain itself. So fast forward to where we are now, the challenges are higher. And as you indicated, at 90 years, something starts not working, infrastructure issues are common, challenges are common at the SABC. But the fundamental issue is the funding aspect of it.
Yeah.
So we have to acknowledge that 90 years later, the funding model that was designed for the SABC of many years ago is no longer relevant. The industry has evolved, the sector has evolved, there's more competition, there's new ways that broadcasting is happening. So fundamentally, as the CEO was saying, part of the responsibilities that we have as the current leadership is to preserve the SABC so that we can hand it over to future generations. And at the center of it is that financial sustainability question. So we have to find innovative ways of making sure that the SABC can self-sustain going into the future. That's why there are many conversations that are happening, whether it's the question of the SABC bill, which must come with a sustainable funding model and so forth, but also innovative interventions where we now begin to say, how does the SABC of the future looks like? The intervention that speaks to SABC Plus, for an example, how do we then approach broadcasting going forward, instead of maybe looking at some of the players in the sector as competition? How do we collaborate and talk of co-opetition as opposed to competition? And how do we collaborate with the sector itself, whether it's producers, it's various players in the sector? So those are the type of things that we're looking at to make sure that the SABC can live another 90 years so that future generation can benefit the same way that all of us have benefited thus far.
Yeah. And Mr. Chabeli, those challenges notwithstanding, the SABC is still at the forefront of broadcasting and showcasing and punctuating big moments in our lives. Speaking to the IEC's Dr. Victor Shale earlier, and he spoke proudly of the partnership with the SABC as the lead broadcaster going into the local government elections in November. But then there are so many other big events, whether it's a presidential inauguration, whether it's the G20 that we so proudly, broadcast last year, and so many others. And this is something that the SABC has to continue doing regardless of the challenges that we face.
Sakina, that's so true. We are faced with quite a lot of challenges, to the chair's point. But the reality is that we don't have the choice of saying we will not be able to do certain things. The reality is that we do have a public mandate. The public mandate is onerous, but the public mandate is critical in driving this country's democracy, because the SABC is the platform that ensures that all South Africans are participating in this country's democracy, that they're being heard. The fact that we talk about the plurality of voices is very, very important. So we've just come from a very successful World Cup broadcast where South Africans across all walks of life were able to see Bafana beating South Korea. That's very important because we are about national moments, and we always say that if it is a national moment, it has to be on SABC, because by virtue of our scale, on a daily basis, SABC has more than 26 million South Africans who rely on us for information and entertainment and education. So we must never undermine the role of public broadcasting, public service media organizations, despite the changes that we've seen in media consumption. The reality is that the SABC is still a very critical institution, and we are expected, there's an expectation from South Africans that the SABC will stand.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I
it
don't
will.
see.
It
I
has
don't
to.
see a world without the SABC.
Speaking about standing, I'm going
Yeah.
to ask you to stand because we got a cake. We got a cake here, and we need to cut this cake. And we've got a lot of our colleagues that have come from upstairs, our studio upstairs, and a lot of the people that work behind the scenes. And we have to acknowledge everyone because you may see us in front of cameras, and we always say that.
I don't know why they camera shy at this.
I don't know. All of our there we go. Everyone, I wish they would come in. So here's the knife. So whoever wants to do the first, do it together. It's 90 years. It's a celebration, and yeah, may we just grow from strength to strength. So let's do this as a team. There we go. 90 years of SABC.
Happy birthday to us.
Yeah, there should be a song. There's got to be something.
But it's been absolutely fabulous. And of course, here's to the next 90 fabulous years of SABC. And I don't know where it's going to take us.
No idea.
You know, given where we've come from, where are we going?
Yeah.
Che, where
You
are we
told
going?
us we're not going to look the same. What are we going to look
To
like?
the end of time.
Oh,
There
okay,
we go.
okay.
End of time.
We are the media organization of the future. And
We
I think
certainly are.
We certainly are.
Thank you.
And of course, thank you so much, South Africa and beyond, for sharing in this moment with us. It's been absolutely fabulous walking down memory lane, and of course, all our colleagues and everyone behind the scenes, thanks for making it here with us. And Leanne,
I wish we could share this, and most importantly, I wish we could share this with the viewer. Because
Vusiwe
you
is-
guys have made us. The viewer has made us. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be us. Thank you, everybody. Have a beautiful weekend and happy birthday,
Happy
SABC.
birthday. Yes, Lee. I think it needs to be cut here.
Oh, yeah, I think some, what?
Yeah.
Like this.
Yeah, there needs to be a cut.
Oh,
Guys, I think the professionals and they will come.